Hi there, nice that you're watching. My name is Chantal Inen, founder of the Punchy Pack. And the last 8 months, we've been working with 6 teams of young professionals to develop an impact case in the partnership Verkiezing. And now you're gonna watch at what they've built. Here is team PwC.
Welcome, Team PwC, Duo PwC. Thanks for coming. Let's start straight away with you, Rochelle. Tell us about this big idea that you've been working on as a team.
So our big idea is to have an ability office within our PwC firm, which is an office which is basically a person. For now, our aim is one person, but it's basically an office which actually throughout a whole employee life cycle. So from the moment a candidate goes to our websites and searches for vacancies, to the moment the person maybe writes a motivation letter, uploads a CV, they have their first job interview, maybe they're hired. Throughout this whole employee life cycle, we want there to be an office, a person who is responsible for actually connecting all those departments and all those people that are involved in this whole process.
Okay, so focused on the individuals, their personal growth, or every step of their career.
Yeah, because we see and we've heard that these talents with an ability, they need a little special attention. They maybe don't always fit into the PwC standards and processes that we have, and they need some special attention from a dedicated person to make this experience better for them.
Okay, very clear. Okay, so you've got the idea and you've done a little bit of research, but then I guess the most fun part of the process is the field research, actually talking to people involved at the sharp end. What was that like for you, Adam?
Yeah, so the fun part, but also I think the most confronting part of our journey. And that was like we interviewed, we started, I think, with interviews. We interviewed colleagues who already work at PwC with a disability about their experience, the hiring experience, but also their experiences working for the firm. And we also interviewed candidates with a disability who were not hired.
Right.
And that was sometimes very difficult to hear what their experience is. And
can you share an example?
So I think one of the interviews we did was with a candidate, very well educated, very smart guy, a visual impaired. And he wanted to apply for a job at PwC. He really wanted to work for our firm. And I think we also recognized ourselves in him. So, and at the same time, he was not hired or he didn't get the job because we made the judgment call that it was too difficult and too hard for them to go to the office. And without having a fair conversation with him about this and his point of view on that. So I think that also motivated us that we also need within our ability office to educate our colleagues, like how do you go into a conversation with people with these talents?
If the ability office was in place, how should that conversation have gone?
I think the ability office would first educate the interviewer, so the person taking the interview, and also take away the bias that people have, because a lot of pre-assumptions are made about whether a person can or cannot do something. And we've heard from many people that generally society thinks in struggles and in challenges instead of looking at the positive things and what this person is very capable of doing. So looking at the good stuff and looking ahead and thinking along with them instead of only thinking in problems and things that might hinder a process or
Yeah. And what do the numbers say? You say you think that there's a lot of opportunity to hire more talents, but what does the research show around this?
Yeah, so last year in our annual report, we wrote down that already 127 colleagues work for PwC with a disability.
Out of how many?
So we have 6,000 colleagues in total.
Wow, that's quite a small number then.
Yeah, and on the other side, it's also a very good number. So we talked also with many other companies. outside, so many other companies, and they said, "Wow, PwC is doing quite well on this topic." And I think we do. There's a lot of awareness on the topic. People are really supportive and engaged, and they really are excited that we engage on this topic, that we hold this topic. Things that are for us quite normal. So, for example, we walk in our office in Amsterdam, and we can order a cappuccino in signing language. These are quite normal things for us.
Because the reception or the people behind the bar can speak sign. Oh, wonderful.
So that is a wonderful example. For us, it's quite normal. But if I always tell this example on parties and with friends, they think, "Wow, this is so new for the company they work for." So I think we're doing well, but there are many more opportunities. And that is where our ability office comes in.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's also you see the people that are there. So those 127, they're quite like focused in certain teams or certain departments where maybe it's easier. Well, we think maybe it's easier to staff them, but we think like in the other like business units and teams, there's way more opportunity to engage.
So, and one disclaimer on the 127, like this is information, like if people apply to a job, we don't ask them, like, do you have any disabilities? Because we can't. That is, in terms of privacy, that is impossible. So this is information based on volunteer. I didn't say that.
Volunteered information.
Volunteered information. So, like, not all. Like, probably there are many more colleagues who have a disability, but we don't know.
Yeah. And you're piggybacking the name, at least, on an existing network. In terms of crafting the rest of the idea, though, have you done that in conversation with people from the Ability Network? And what have the reactions been?
Yeah, for sure. So right now, the Ability Network, they're swamped with those like operational tasks of getting people their correct IT system, where they're actually supposed to like create awareness, build an environment and a community within the colleagues. But right now they're working so much on these practical issues that they would also really benefit from having this Ability Office actually take away those tasks, and that the network can actually focus on is like by colleagues, for colleagues kind of setting.
Yeah. So also without our Ability Network, we wouldn't have sit there with this idea. So thanks to them and sharing their experiences, the Ability Office is what we think it should be.
Yeah. And the response from management, because an office requires staff, it requires time, it requires resources.
Yeah.
Is there appetite for that?
Yeah, and also I think an office is a quite big name for one dedicated person.
True.
So that is something we should definitely work on these kind of details. But management is enthusiastic, but this is all. Inequality is also an important topic for our firm and also for our management. We are reporting on this every year, on disability and many other inequalities. So this is a topic they are very enthusiastic about.
So what do you think you'd need in your pitch to convince, let's say, the higher-ups at PwC to make available even more budget? So it's not just one person, it's a department of 3, 4, 5, and so on.
I think we need to show the connection and that it actually works, because there's a lot of different teams and different individuals really involved in a topic, but they don't really seem to come together in one designated spot. And right now we are kind of that spot within PwC, because we talk to all these people and everybody refers us to everybody, and we're like a spider in the web connecting all the teams. And that should be formalized within PwC on a central level. And this person could be able to like really make the connections between recruitment, but also with the teams that are actually hiring those people. There's many steps still to be taken. We've talked to the Dutch National Police, and they actually have like a team with people on the autism spectrum that actually watch like footage of like crime scenes or like, I don't know, road intersections, because they're very good at focusing and paying attention for a long time to those video images, whereas maybe the regular detectives would get bored after 15 minutes and maybe miss something. So that's really one of the examples that the National Police showed us that really, really sparked our interest.
Yeah, fantastic. Are there any more like that? Because that's a super example.
I think the National Police also has visually impaired people listen to recordings as well. Because if you're visually impaired, I think often your hearing gets a bit better and they're able to pick up on sounds or maybe background noises more easily than other people.
Yeah. And what are the obstacles to scaling this idea up?
And you mean scaling it up outside to other
Potentially,
organizations?
Or just proving that there is a business case to this, to your higher ups, to get that extra budget, or rolling it out as a service.
I think maybe it takes time and also money and resources to get it going. But I think once it gets going, you'll really see the benefit of having these really great talents within your organization that are just doing a great job.
It also
at their job.
It also starts with willingness, right? So you need a coalition of the willing, also within our organization, colleagues who really want to attract and hire more talents with a disability.
Yeah.
So it starts with that, and I think that is. We have also lots of conversation about that. About are you really willing, and are you work harder probably, or look further than you do regularly to really go into the conversation with these talents and hire them. And it also takes some courage, I think. So it's a willingness and also courage.
And how do you gauge that? I mean, is there a notice board that you say, okay, we're looking for this kind of support, and you wait for people to come to you, or are you more strategic about it to try and get specific partners or senior partners or management directors on board?
So at the moment we work with like intermediaries. So they are specialized in, for example, organizing speed days between talents with an ability and companies. And we're like within their network, right? We have a partnership with them, and they give us CVs of candidates, and then it's distributed to recruitment, and they try to find a suitable spot. But what we want to have is a more proactive approach as well. Because right now, for example, if you go to our vacancy website, I think most of the vacancies will likely not be fit for talents with an ability, because they're all, for example, 40-hour work week, which is not something that is realistic to many people with an ability.
Right.
So we need to be more proactive and really be like, hey, if you want to work at PwC, but you need some extra attention, please contact us here, and then we together see where you could be a great fit for the company.
Yeah. And to make something, do you want to add something?
Yeah, so I think we said that storytelling is also very important in this, because we were quite enthusiastic about this topic also while talking to these talents. So that helped us to work very hard on this. I think that is also like storytelling and sharing the stories of these talents that helped.
Yeah, I can imagine how inspiring that is. And you mentioned partners. Is there like a dream partner or multiple partners that you'd love to get on board in order to kind of continue building this project?
I think like the dream partner is all these talents who live in the Netherlands, who want to work, who have a disability. That is the dream partner, because we want them. And it doesn't matter if they come from an intermediating party or we are looking for them.
But it sounds like you also need kind of systemic change inside PwC, just changing the role from a 40-hour work week to something else. That's a pretty massive change, cultural change you're asking for from an organization. And that doesn't happen overnight, right?
And I think that's also really a role that the Ability Office could play to guide and to teach and mentor the teams that right now maybe do not have a person with an ability, to get into a conversation with them and think, what kind of role could you create that's maybe a little bit different than the roles that you currently have in your team, but that a person with an ability could fulfill? What kind of changes are you able to make and willing to make, or do you need to make? And I think the Ability Office can be a great partner in having those conversations, in trying to
Educating.
educate our own people. Yeah.
It's really notable. I can feel like how enriching this journey has been for both of you just from this short conversation. What kind of personal impact, or how would you describe the personal impact that exploring this idea has had on both of you?
Yeah, I think I told you this afternoon. When you get into the topic, then everywhere you are, you kind of see opportunities, and also maybe you see, if I'm just walking on the road and I see, and the road, the sidewalk just ends, I'm like, oh, if I would be in a wheelchair, I wouldn't be able to continue going where I want to go. And then every time you have these little things, it's like, oh, yeah, we really need to do better. Yeah.
Yeah. And for you,
So what really touched me was the conversation that had made the most impact on me. The conversations we had with candidates who were not hired, who didn't get the job, because some of the reasons were like that we like our colleagues judged for these talents that they weren't able to do this, or this was too difficult, or traveling to the office was too hard, and that really touched me, because then I thought like, wow, how can we make this judgment call without having the fair conversation with them, and without thinking about what can they do well. So one of the candidates said to me, like, the first conversation I had to be in the office, and he said, why isn't it possible to have that a virtual meeting? And I said, you're right. Why is that impossible? Because he was visual impaired.
Your leadership, the people who have to take the decisions, may not be willing to take that step.
Oh, I don't agree in that. They are very willing. So I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned.
We're doing this.
Yeah, we're doing this already in our journey of 8 months.
Yeah.
We see, like, we started already.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's not the conversation whether we're going to do it. It's more, okay, how can we make sure that we do it in the right way, that it's smart, and needed what you mentioned, the scaling up. How can we do it in a smart way? Where are we going to place this within the organization? Yeah. It's not if we're going to place it, it's more where are we going to place it.
Okay.
Next week we have a conversation with one of the, like, we are divided into 4, we call it a line of service, and we have a conversation with the board of one of those lines of services to really see, okay, who is a person that can do this job, at least for, let's say, a day in a week.
Yeah.
That's a conversation we're having next week for one of the lines of services.
Yeah, so that is the next step we need to take. Who is taking responsibility on this? Who is the dedicated person who will drive this?
Yeah. Okay. And just to build on the positivity and the optimism that you both have, paints a picture for me of what the situation looks like in, let's say, 3 years' time.
I think for how it would look like in 3 years at PwC, I say
300.
The amount of people. I was going to say like 3 or 4 people.
No.
Like the office, let's say 3-4 people, but they each have their counterparts in each of those other teams that they are. So they have like their tentacles everywhere within the organization. And then there's a recruiter within our advisory practice that is heavily involved as well. There's this recruiter in our tax practice that is also involved.
And I think two objectives I would have is, one is that we double the figures. So we have more colleagues with a disability within PwC. And on the other hand, they stay in our firm.
Yeah.
So we make it accessible for them, they can develop, and they have a future.
Yeah.
And that's also something we really noticed in the conversation, because certain teams are more ahead than other teams. So there's teams that basically have nobody with an ability. And there's teams that actually have some people that have already been there for, let's say, 2, 3, 4 years. But you notice that after those 3, 4 years, you get into different challenges for these people. Because what about the promotion criteria? How do we handle that? Those are conversations that right now are not really happening on a strategic or central level yet. It's really those people that are now, we haven't really thought about this yet. How can we, and I would want the Ability Office in the future to really like throughout this whole employee life cycle, from the moment you see a vacancy on our website up through when you're getting promotions and growing as a professional, that Disability Office is able to help you kind of each step of the way.
Wow, wonderful. That's a pretty detailed picture that you paint. And you're good duo, like you're supporting one another. I like it, very complimentary. All right, this is your opportunity. This is a video podcast. I'd love one of you to make a call to action, your pitch. Why should, whatever you want to do to make this, whatever you need to make this idea super successful.
Within PwC, we would want every director, partner, team lead to really think, where in your team would you be able and would you be open, would you be willing, and would you have enough courage to maybe see if you can hire a talent with an ability? My dream would be it's not only within PwC we can do that, but I would ask many more companies, how can you think about the ability of a talent and how can you hire them?
Yeah, super. Really well put. Thank you very much, both of you. Fully on board, and I wish you all the best with this idea.
Thank you so much.